Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show. This episode 369. There's an old rap song that says something about 369. Damn, they fine. I
Mhm.
forget the name of the
Give it to me,
song.
suck it to me one more
One
time,
more
get
time.
low.
Get low.
Get
That's
low,
what it
get low,
right.
get
Get low,
low.
get low, get low, get low. Absolutely. Speaking of
The
music, so
window.
the song we use on our timer video there, I thought we owned that, but I've been getting copyright struck from YouTube on it. So we'll change that up soon. Apparently we don't. We have some music. I know we've licensed all of the music we had, but I have found out that even though you license music, that does not mean that someone can't hop in there and copyright strike you. So
It's true.
I'll use some other music that may keep us a little bit out of trouble. But guys, we've got one more week until Father's Day. Are you ready for it?
Oh,
Totally.
yeah.
Are you ready? Yeah, you're like, yeah, I really don't. Yeah, I don't have to do a lot of.
It's not much.
My
for
dad's
me
out
to
of
do.
town for it this year,
So-
so I'm not doing anything for it.
Yeah.
I
So
was just down and saw my dad, so I'm not going down to visit him again. And yeah, I'll just give him a call. That'll be it.
yeah, guys, I think my overhead lights are a little bright. Let me get my assistant to take care of those real quick. Alexa, office lights 20%. How about that? Is that better? Should I take them down a little more?
Well, that's
How
pretty
was-
good.
Good.
That's pretty
Alexa,
Usually
office
what you
lights
do.
10%.
Oh,
I think that's it, right? Good,
Mhm.
good
Yeah,
light
looks
on my
good,
face
yeah.
here. You can see the pub well in the background, not too much light on me. From the overhead making my hair shine. So I think we're good there. Absolutely. Father's Day, dad beers.
Mhm.
Beers for dad and all that. So we're going to get into it, have a good time. We got a couple with us already, guys. Thanks for joining us. Billy, always good to see you, man. Billy's on our YouTube and he's looking at our cover art we made there. We've been using AI to make cover art, and we got a cool pic of some dads fishing and drinking beer. I tried to do that, and I think one dad has got a lobster claw going through his midsection, and like
Yeah.
that lobster claw is holding another beer. And then I believe one dad has at least 6 fingers, maybe more. AI doesn't do well with fingers. So
Well, it's the right week for aliens to be showing up in our art, because apparently there's some sort of a report about some agency
non-human
has
origin, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
non-human origin spacecraft
Yeah.
and various bodies of aliens supposedly. I don't know if that's true, but you
Man,
know.
I would love it so much if it was. I won't go too far off in that tangent. I could ramble about that for a while, but yeah. Tyler, man, thanks for dropping
Hey,
in here
Tyler.
from Texas. Always good to see you, man. It's we're getting spread out here. We got Georgia, Carolinas here. Beer Jesus back with us this week, man. Thanks
Yeah,
so
look at
much for
that.
showing back up. We appreciate it. And that's right. He hosts on Twitch. He's got a
Yep.
show on Twitch, so he's gonna get on
Go
that
check that out.
later. But yeah, guys, yeah, it's beer. It is beer time. We're gonna have a good time with it. We're gonna talk about what dad beer means just in general. You know, what beers were for our dads. So I don't want to repeat too much on the live stream that we have to just do again on the show.
man.
So what, Nate?
Oh, nothing. Beer Jesus just said the best dad beer is always Stella Artois, and
Stella.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
That
my
did
dad-
come
it
up in the
means-
list of dad beers that
Yeah.
I've seen. So
It
Yeah.
means something to everybody, but I got to agree with his other comment there, Nate. If you want to throw that up, Hams, it's the beer refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It is the
from
beer
the land
refreshing.
of sky blue waters.
Man, I looked for some. I couldn't find it.
I want
So,
the retro packaging on that.
yeah. But y'all, thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate it. We're going to jump into the podcast recording now, and please do feel free to continue to chat along with us here. That's right. I do that, don't I, Nate? I've
Yes,
been
you do
doing
that.
that. Let me get down here then. Let me get down here. I'm sitting there waiting on something I'm supposed to be doing. So let's see. Turn off the loop. This thing always resets some of my settings and
Mhm.
messes me up. All right, guys, give me 5 seconds of silence. We'll rock and roll. Welcome, everybody. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show special episode this week. We're like crazy excited. Father's Day is coming up next weekend. So in order to give you time to plan on some beer drinking with dad, this is our dad beers and beers for dad show. It's going to be a great time. Mo Mike, Nate, how in the heck are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a good week so far.
Good. That's always good to hear. I can't say the same, but I'm going to have a beer here in a minute. We'll make it all better. Brian Hewitt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, dad beers for dads, and yes, that really covers it. Was
Yeah.
this a requested show? I think it was. Wasn't
It
it one of our
was
fans
Coach
asking for it?
Rogers, that is one
Yeah,
of our Patreon supporters, had mentioned, he's like, with Father's Day coming up, it'd be great if you did this. I'm like, Coach, you nailed it, man. That's a great idea. We are going to do that. So we immediately set to research, which means drinking some retro beers and stuff, and get right into it. So we are going to do just that. Brian, let me ask you this. Do you recall your first beer with your dad?
I haven't had it yet. My dad doesn't drink beer.
Ah, wow. Okay. Now he's retired and down
Yes,
in Florida now, right?
correct. Yeah.
Maybe you can talk him into it. Just as a dad, I'm a big beer fan, or get him an athletic maybe.
That's
Uh,
a good idea. I
if
might
he
have to do
doesn't,
that.
at least you can have a beer with your dad there. So,
You know what? He might do that. I know back in the day, this is before I could touch this stuff, and I think he tasted a friend's wine cooler back when wine coolers were a big deal. I think
okay.
he split it with my mom. It's like I think the one and only time I've ever seen him drink, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's very nice." And in the way he says things are really nice that he's never gonna do again, or
I'm not
just
going to tell you. He
not
drank.
really into. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite nice. Oh, I think I feel. Yeah. Okay. And then never touched anything like that again. Yeah.
See, I was hopeful, Brian, that you said he had half a wine cooler and then he's dancing in his underwear on tables and stuff, because your dad was a man of the cloth, correct?
Yes, and he
Yeah,
actually still somehow wound up being an
technically.
associate pastor again, even though
Okay.
he's retired in his 70s, but he got promoted, possibly against his will, I don't know, but he's happy about it, so he continues to do that. My dad was always a robust fellow like myself, and I
Sure.
think that it
Okay.
would, even him being a teetotaler all of his life, I think it would take him more than half of a wine cooler to really get to a point where he was anything more than just a little bit more jovial. So,
Okay. That
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So I didn't notice anything as a child, but who knows? He might have been feeling loopy for all I know. Maybe he did after I went to bed. Dance on tables and things like that. But
That's
I didn't
right.
see it.
He was
Yeah.
controlled with it as much as possible.
Well,
Nate,
how
how
about
about
you, Tim? Oh, should we
yeah,
go to?
Nate, you go right ahead,
Yeah.
Nate. Tell me
Thanks.
about first beer with your dad.
Thanks, boys. One of the first beers I can remember drinking with my dad was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Um, I had just gotten back in town from working out of state, and the only beer he had in the fridge was Sierra Pale. And I didn't like the pale ales, but it was one of those things. Free beer is better than going out and buying beer. So by the end of the week, I like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
There you go, man. That's sometimes you got to. It's called immersion. Immersion therapy is what they call it there. So
Absolutely.
immersed himself in it. So for me, I've actually shared this story a couple times before. I was probably maybe 8 years old, and I know that sounds like a bad start to a first beer story, but we were in Norfolk, Virginia area, and went out fishing with my uncle. We were out on the Chesapeake Bay, and my uncle always drank Bud Heavy 8-ounce cans, and always the 8-ounce. And I think he liked those because you got it down quicker and kept them cold there. So that was a case of we were out fishing, we're going around. My uncle pops a beer, and I think I just looked at him and my dad. My dad's name was Gene. He's like, Gene, you want one? My dad paused. He's like, yeah. So gives my dad one. Of course, I'm like, I want to do what they're doing. I want to do what they're doing. So I'm like, hey, Dad, can I have one? My uncle looks at my dad. My dad kind of gives a sideways grin. He's like, sure. Now I'm assuming they're thinking, hey, it's an 8-ounce beer, so that was my first one. Fishing with my dad and my uncle out on the boat on Chesapeake Bay. I had an 8-ounce can of Bud Heavy. And I know a lot of people talk about their first beers and not liking them. I remember really enjoying it. Like right out of the gate, man, I was all about beer. And if you're out there hot, the summer, the salt air and those beers can be pretty refreshing. So that was my first beer memory with Dad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, let's see. Do we have any here in the chat on we'll get into what is a dad beer here in just a minute. But we're looking. I think I saw someone say, Stella. Stella was the first beer with Dad and stuff like that. So yeah. So that was a good time, man. It's a lot of good memories are made around beer. And Brian, you had a question here. Sorry, sir. Go right ahead. You look like you had something to say.
I was just thinking, my dad was never a beer guy, but somewhat related, something kind of a dad activity. I did have I only think I've ever had one cigar with my dad, but I did have a Cuban, not legal here, but an actual legitimate Cuban panatella. I think it was oh man, not a Monte Cristo. What's the other one? The Cohiba. I think it was a Cohiba Panatella or something like that. I'm not
Okay.
100% sure. I know
All
it was a
right.
legitimate one, not a glass top fake Cohiba one. But we did smoke one of those, and I remember that being the most interesting because he was very excited about smoking it, enjoyed it very much, and kept telling me not to tell my mom that he was doing this.
Yeah, don't tell.
So
Don't
no,
tell.
so not
Yeah.
beer, but I did have something vice-ish with the dad. So he's not there's still fire under that snowy roof.
There's right, exactly. Tyler shared a story. I imagine a lot of kids did this when they were younger. He said he used to get beers for his dad, and he'd get a big sip off of it every time. And he mentioned earlier Budweiser was his dad's beer. So I think that's probably not that uncommon. It's hey, grab me a beer. All right, want me to
Mhm.
open it for you? So
Yeah,
yeah, make
take a
sure
big
it's.
old sip.
I'll check this thing out for you. I'll make sure the quality control is good. So now that we have talked about dad beers and our first beer with our dad, I tell you what, Nate, can you tell us what is a dad beer?
Yeah, so the term dad beer is often used colloquially to refer to a certain type of beer that is associated with older generations or traditional masculine stereotypes. Typically refers to mainstream, widely available beers that were popular in past decades. So like your macro beers, your BMC beers, your Bud Miller
Bud
Core.
Miller Coors, right? Yeah.
hmm these beers are often considered to be less adventurous or craft oriented compared to the wide range of options available in the greater craft beer market. So, uh, it the dad beer can create a sense of nostalgia. It reminds us of time with dad. Tim, you going fishing with your dad and your uncle, and Brian, your dad with his wine coolers.
Good
Um,
dad.
Yes. Every time I crack
yeah.
open a wine cooler, I think of good old dad.
So yeah, so the dad beer is kind of that. Just reminds you of the good old times that you had with your pops growing up.
That's it, man. Nostalgia. I think that's a big part of a dad beer. I think that's probably the most important part of it. So, yeah, you know what? I am actually drinking something I would consider a dad beer. I had to go out and quest for some dad beers here. And so my first choice, I wanted some Jenny Cream. Could not find, I found Jenny Light in a 30 rack. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want. And then my second choice was Hams, and I couldn't find that. So I got Heileman's Old Style, which is one you don't see. Brian, have you had an Old Style in a minute?
I think I've had it, but it's been a very long time. That was always in my more formative drinking years. That was one I saw signs for more often than I saw the actual beer. So
Okay,
I think
gotcha.
that it's possible I've never had it, but it's also possible that I've had it a long time ago. I'm not 100% sure on that. It would have
Okay.
been in my 20s most likely.
If I remember right, I think this was Chicagoland was where the Old Style was a
Mhm.
big deal, and I think did it go away for a while or maybe was just hard to find? Because I feel like I've seen people, you know what? I know maybe the beer Jesus can tell us in chat because I know he knows his beer and knows some of his beer history there, but I think either it went away or it was just hard to find, maybe. And people were talking again, nostalgia will get you. You start thinking about this. Brian, you asked a question earlier off air that I didn't get a chance to answer, but you were asked if anybody had drank that generic stuff that's just
Yeah, the 70s
so.
generic stuff. I read an article about it, but go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
never drank it, but when I lived in New York, anybody in the Northeast New York area is going to know Wegmans, the grocery chain up there, being popular. Our Wegmans had beer, just white can, black letters, beer. And I never tried it, man. I really wish that I had because that would have, I wish I had a can of it right now. I haven't seen that in forever. I don't know if any place still does that, but this would have been mid 80s, I guess. And they did have
It's
just
about right.
beer up there. Yeah.
So I read an article about it. I didn't take any notes on it. Maybe I should have because it really kind of ties in nicely here. But that was a whole thing for a while. It was started by one brewery and it really took off. Falstaff, I think when
Falstaff.
Falstaff
Okay.
got
Yeah.
bought out, the new owner cut a lot of their high end stuff and then switched over to doing that. And it absolutely took off in the 70s. And it was huge to the 70s. You know what? The economy of the economics of the 70s were such that an inexpensive beer, and that was like $1 under other six packs or whatever.
Right.
It was hugely appealing to people. So people went out and they got that and they drank it in droves. And so other people were making it. I saw somebody on Twitter mentioning that they saw a Kroger Cost Cutter brand, and Cost Cutter was, I guess, another one of those inexpensive beer ones. That was like a yellow beer can with beer and black lettering on it, but
I
that
think
was
I've
it. So
seen it.
there was
Yeah. Okay.
a lot of them. I think a lot of different breweries made them for like department stores, grocery stores, whatever, maybe even gas stations. I'm not sure. So it was a thing, and I think it lasted into the 80s and died maybe late 80s, early 90s. I vaguely recall seeing actual white cans that were just beer, but it was at a point in my time, point in my life where I couldn't get away with, I couldn't get my hands on it, and I couldn't get away with drinking it if I did. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
Good
saw it.
stuff, man. So we got some info here from Eric Gruber on our old style. He said, yeah, Chicago. So, and he mentioned he had his first old style at a Cubs game sitting in the outfield bleachers. So I thought that was a Chicagoland thing. Good old Heileman's old style.
But the signs are everywhere, and
Yeah.
maybe some
Yeah.
of it's
The
a little bit of the
vintage.
nostalgia, like bars you see from the Midwest and things like that. But I remember seeing them in bars in the Northwest in Portland that were kind of like neighborhood rundown, uh dive bars, like my
Yeah.
favorites. You'd see that in there, and I'm like, they don't have that beer, do they? It's like, no, but they've got the sign. So I mean, that's I don't know. I think it went with that. I'm not sure.
I remember seeing it before. So I don't think it stayed necessarily in Chicago. I just think that was maybe where where it originated there, kind of like I think Jenny Cream, you still see it mostly there in that New York area, but it's stretched out, So how far does Rainier get, Brian? I tell you what, let's get back that we just defined what technically a dad beer is. Maybe a lot of classic. We're gonna say that's the classic definition.
Yeah.
We're gonna come dad beer nouveau here in a little bit. But Brian, what do you consider a dad beer? What are dad beers? What do you think of?
So when it comes to dad beers, I always think of the macros, the big name macros, but not the light ones. Always the heavy or the normal. Bud Heavy, Coors Banquet, Miller High Life, which I happen to be drinking right now. I don't think that's anything light. The champagne of beers. Hams, of course, that's definitely a dad beer. Rainier for sure. I didn't even think about it until I saw the name, and I like, oh yeah, my uncle who was again the Hewitt brother that did all the Vice. I think Rainier was one of his beers as well. So yeah, I think of those beers when I think of dad beers,
Dad
basically.
beers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nate, how about you? What says dad beer to you?
The only thing I can expand upon from what Brian's already said is Yingling and Stella Artois. Those were two that I frequently saw my dad have in his hand when I was a kid growing up, and even still today as an adult drinking with him. I'd say those two, in addition to the BMC heavies, Bud Heavy for
Yeah.
sure, and Coors Banquet. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. We've got from the chat here, we mentioned ATL6245 mentioned that his dad was on that cost cutter drink. So he was all up
I
on
think he's the
that
one that
there.
posted it on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach said that his dad was a Coors man there. Lone Star was brought up as, a good dad beer. What do we got here? Billy beer from the 70s. I remember
Oh yeah.
when that was a thing. Tyler says Olympia. Again, that's another one I think
Oh
falls in
yeah.
there. So,
Olympia.
to add to the other ones you guys have said, and we've mentioned some of these already, but I think your regional beers are dad beers.
Mhm.
And to be honest, there were a lot of regional beers probably before we even came along that are long gone, that maybe those were grandpa beers or something. But I think about the Jenny Creams, the Heilemans, the Hams, Natty Bow, Narragansett, I think is right. Narragansett,
Mhm.
Rainier is
Yeah.
another one there. And of course you mentioned Nate Yingling, but I think those are dad beers because a lot of the dads, they did get what their local beer was. I remember being, younger up in New York. That was kind of my earlier teens. But Jenny Cream, that was the beer there. That's what the working class dad drank, was the Genesee Cream Ale. It was almost, ubiquitous up there. So
Before it went away, I was one of the beers I was thinking about drinking for the show, and I switched it out for something that's more relevant. I was thinking Fat Tire was it's old enough. It was just on the cusp of approaching dad beer. They changed it, so that
Yeah.
kind of, when you change it, you reset everything, and so I don't think I would consider it anymore. But the original, I thought it was getting close to being like, yeah, it was an amber ale, and it'd been around for, I mean, like its heyday was what, 20 years ago, 15 plus. I don't know. I remember driving up to Tennessee to get it before it was in Georgia. It'd be excited about it, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a few of those beers that kind of fall right in the middle of that. For me personally, it's like, is that old enough to be a dad beer? I guess Anchor Steam could probably be on that list.
Yeah.
You know, you got Fat Tire. That my dad definitely was not in craft beer, and I think it was a lot less common, you know, during that. I think us, you know, our dads are gonna be in their 60s, 70s. For me,
Yeah, exactly.
80s. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, up there. They were, heck, my dad's dad was a Carolina moonshiner. You know, he didn't drink beer. He made his own White Lightning over there. So
The original dad beer.
yeah.
Well,
So guys, what's that?
See, the original dad beer was Shine.
That was dad beer in quotes there.
Yeah.
So guys, I think everything we've talked about so far, we've really been focusing in on the US and what kind of we define as a dad beer. But I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but a lot of Europe had a few centuries head start on brewing for us.
Yeah, you
so
say.
I thought we invented beer.
we did.
telling
yes,
me we
let's
didn't?
stick with that.
Oh.
No, we did. So
I don't know what
we
to
ought to
believe
write a
now.
total we ought to do a drunk history, fake history episode where we just talk about like the origins of beer, like how when the founding fathers came over and landed on Plymouth Rock, they first discovered barley.
And then they founded a brewery in Chico, California.
That's it. Exactly. But if we think outside of the US, like England, you're probably looking at like a Fuller's, Old Speckled Hen, Timothy Taylor over there. A lot of those, or to be honest, probably your local regional pub ale there. You know, whatever's on cast. I would think that's probably your basic ESB, a mild, something along those lines, the British pub ales. Of course, Ireland's got to be Guinness, right? I mean, that was a dad probably for a few generations. That's been a dad beer. If anybody knows any better, fill me in there. And then Germany, who knows, man? They may have been drinking, you know, those around Cologne, probably sipping their Kolsch. You know, you look at something like Weihenstephaner, that was probably popular. But I've heard today, and I'm going to imagine it's been this way for a little while, is that basically anytime someone talks about going to Germany and what should they drink, they're like, just get whatever's pouring in your local pub. You know, that there's still a lot of that there. So outside of the beer brands, they're probably drinking, you know, whatever it is. And that's what Beer Jesus, again, he said Carling, Leffe for like the UK could be. I know Carling. Yeah, I've heard that. I think Australia too. That was going St. Pauli girl, Murphy's Heart, Beamish. So
Beamish. Murphy's and Beamish. Yeah, for sure. And Harp, obviously.
A little different definition than our BMC beers. I believe British dads do not much care for our dad beers, our classic dad beers here.
Well, I think they'd probably, I would assume, prefer them off cask. You know, they'd be getting their milds off casks for the most part. So our stuff would be highly carbonated and very bloating compared to what they're used to getting, and probably higher ABV. You know, they're used to knocking them back for a while and not getting completely torn up doing so. So I'd imagine that they couldn't quite do the same kind of socializing with our beer as they can with the lightly carbonated and the lower ABV cask beers over there.
Brian, a few years ago, you and I were at a beer fest over in Roswell, Georgia. And I think we may have been standing on the street corner having a cigar, like stepping outside of the fest, but we ran into a British fella there, and he's doing his best to stay upright, kind of wobbling around and leaning on the brick wall there. But he strikes up a chat with us, and we get to talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I've just got to America, you know, and getting out here drinking the beer." And I was like, "Oh, what do you think of American beer?" And he's like, "It effing sucks." He's like, "So much carbonation, it's too cold." And he was ripped, man. He was just absolutely ripped. So he got the
he's
best.
He's drunk and unhappy with it too.
Yes,
That's
drunk and angry about it. That's exactly right. Yeah, but he, as much as he hated it, it obviously did not stop him from drinking enough to get schnockered at the beer festival. So he pulled through. Cheers to him.
He survived. Was he the guy? Was that by any chance the guy involved with Cask Mark, buddy, or is that a different guy
No,
completely?
that's different. This
Okay,
was
all right.
this is going to be weird, but I remember Brian, you got, I believe it was either your 500th or 1000th untapped check-in, and it was
Oh,
Cherry Street Coconut Porter.
oh, I know which festival that was.
You
Yeah, I
remember now,
still.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. I think that Matt Curling had his own special pour there before he even had
he
a
did
brewery,
before he
in
had a
like a
brewery.
VIP area. Yeah, I
Right.
remember that. And
Yeah.
oh, what was the special stuff? Was Cascade just first in the area, or was it? There was something
No,
really,
Cascade was maybe a year or two later at Decatur Beer Festival.
Didn't they have something that was extremely hard to
KBS. It was the first
the
drop at
KB?
KBS that
Okay,
year,
okay,
which
yeah,
that was still a big deal at that time for that festival. And so a lot of people came out because they heard that they would be opening KBS, and that's before it even hit shelves that particular year. So
Wouldn't you guys
KBS.
go to
Go ahead.
wouldn't you guys go to the Porter and get a pint of KBS on Christmas Day?
so they
CBS.
used to,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So the porter used to be, they would, I know they did it a couple times, like when they could get it, and this was when it was still a very big deal. You know, you'd go down there, they would open on Christmas Day and tap a keg of a Canadian breakfast stout. So, you know, all the diehards, they'd open up their gifts and maybe have a bite to eat. I think they didn't open until 5 o'clock. So we would
Yeah,
go,
sounds
you
about
know, it
right.
would be packed with the serious beer nerds on Christmas Day, getting those beers.
I
Good
still
times, good
I
times.
still love that we did a Christmas dinner, lunch dinner, whatever at my place. Had some people over, and they were tapping that. They're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna head over to the Porter to have Founder CBS. Anybody want to go? And my other friend who's likes beer but is not that very likely to drink, closer to drinking dad beers, still likes the old school IPAs. He's like, "Are you guys are really gonna go?
It's like, are you
Really?
for real?
Are you
For real?
serious?" And looking
It's like,
back on it,
yes.
I'm like, he was right to think that we were absolutely out of our damn minds, but we went. We
Dedicated
absolutely
is what
did.
we are,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Dedicated. Guys,
Dedicated.
before we get too much further in, we're in a good bit here. I do want to mention our beers of the week. I think we've mentioned them casually, but I want to mention them, you know, kind of in a nice nutshell here. And I do want to thank our good friends at the Nest for sponsoring this segment. As always, we appreciate their support. Their craft beer barbecue in Kennesaw, Georgia. Nate, did you know that the Nest has tacos?
I did.
You did. Okay. I thought I was going to drop some knowledge on you, but what's your favorite taco at the Nest?
The last time I went, I had their pulled pork tacos.
Okay. That sounds tasty. I think mine is the Nashville hot chicken taco. You
Okay.
know, you can't argue with good hot chicken. They take a nice chicken tendy, they Nashville hot it up, they put it in a tortilla with a couple of pickles, I think a little slaw in there, if I remember.
Hmm.
And that's a really tasty one. But, you know, in addition to barbecue and beer, tacos, barbecue tacos, but it is though. So thank you to the Nest. If you're in the area, make sure to check them out and make sure to tell them that the beer guys sent you. So Brian, your beers of the week. You're drinking that High Life. You're on the High Life
I
right
am.
now, correct? You got that. From Atlanta Brewing, taking things literal here, he has Kentucky Beer Dad, which is an
That's
English
correct.
barley wine, 12%, a little vintage beer, one of
It
the
is,
cellar
yeah.
beers there. From Southern Pines, he's got a malty by nature.
And
Nate, you go ahead, Brian.
I picked that because on the can is an older gentleman who looks like he probably could be a beer dad.
Could be
So
a dad there. Huh?
thematically seemed appropriate.
Mhm.
Also, it's Scottish export. It's in the range of things that could be
Spit it
sort
out,
of
Brian. Let's
becoming
go.
a beer dad. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, coulda, sorta, kinda. All right,
Yeah.
Nate, we've got RJ Rockers Brown Eye Squirrel Brown Ale, River Rat Brewing Broad River Red Ale, and from 8th State Daily Routine Pilsner.
So I didn't have any dad beers on
Okay,
hand, but I went with dad beer styles: a brown, a red, a pilsner.
that's okay because I thought you were off track there, but I see what you did there. I'll allow it, Nate. I'll
Okay,
allow it.
appreciate
So
it.
yeah, we're good to go there. Now let me ask you guys, Brian. We've
Yes.
defined what the classic definition of dad beer is. We've talked about the first beer that you had with your dad. I think you've already covered this actually. You said your dad didn't drink. I was going to
No,
say,
he
what
really
was your
didn't.
dad's go-to? He didn't drink, so really didn't have it. But you said your uncle was all on the Bud Heavy. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I think he was Bud Heavy, and as I thought more about it, when Rainier, I think he was a Rainier beer drinker when he visited. He was East Coast, so I don't know how much obviously you can get heavy over there. I don't know what the range of Rainier was. I actually thought Rainier and Hams were from the Northwest. I come to find out that much later that Hams is, I think, Midwest. I'm not sure where Rainier is from, but I think he enjoyed both, all
It's
three of those.
I mean, Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest, definitely, right?
Yeah.
Where's Mount Rainier?
That's
Washington State, I think?
That's
Yeah, it's
Washington, right?
State.
So I'd
Yeah,
imagine
that's what I thought. But then I was wrong
Yeah.
about Hams. I guess I should have known that we weren't the land of sky blue water. Maybe. I mean,
We're not. We're not.
Yes.
Did you think it was an Atlanta beer?
No. I thought it was a Pacific Northwest beer because.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I mean, we got the commercials there, and I was a kid. So I just
Okay.
assumed it was from us. You know.
Where is Hams from?
I thought it was Midwest.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look into it, but I thought I'd seen somewhere that it wasn't actually the Northwest.
Minnesota.
Is Minnesota?
Okay.
Minnesota.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it was
land of a thousand lakes, land of sky blue waters. That checks out, right?
It makes a lot more sense. I'm like, I didn't
Yeah.
realize our water was that impressive, but we do have a nice environment there in the Northwest. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said,
And,
Brian, that no real dad beer memory, so to speak, but uncle and fishing and drinking his
Yeah.
beers.
yeah, going out fishing with him. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know what? Another kind of semi father figure that occurred to me a little bit, actually just before the show, to be honest. I had a boss in my first job right out of college, and for a while, he was kind of a father figure to a bunch of us that were new employees right out of college. His beer was Labatt Blue. So for about a 6-month or to a year period, when we hung out and played poker with him or whatever, we drank Labatt Blue. So I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot in my
Okay.
heart for Labatt Blue of all things. Like, it was never something that I drank growing up or really didn't drink it after that job. But for a little period of time, I drank Labatt Blue. It was weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's-
So I got
yes.
that going for me.
All right. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Nate, how about you? Any particular beer that was your go-to for your dad or any special memories there?
Honestly, us being able to connect over a slice of pizza and a pint of Yingling at our local pizza spot was always something that we just really connected on, whether we were just meeting up to watch a local game or just to have a chat and a quick catch-up session. That was something that we have definitely enjoyed for our relationship over the years.
That's good stuff, man. So with my dad, something I actually remember this early this afternoon, so I had to run out and get some ingredients. And this makes a lot of sense for those that know me. But my dad and my mom enjoyed what they called a tomato beer. And they would just take tomato juice, nothing, no V8, no Bloody Mary mix, but tomato juice, salt, pepper, beer, and a celery stick. So, it was kind of a chilada, kind of a Bloody Mary kind of thing going on. But I remember my dad actually getting excited for like pool season when we'd open the pool and it was hot out and he could chill by the pool and have a tomato beer. And I do remember this was probably a few years after the first beer, but I was still a young kid at this time, 11, 12, maybe 13. But I do remember dad letting me have a tomato beer with them, like outside, either grilling or by the pool or something like that, and I'm sure he mixed it lighter where it was probably more tomato juice, but I dug them back then too. I was like, "Oh, Dad, you've got great taste. This is exquisite. This is phenomenal, Father. Thank you so much." So,
Daddy, this is fantastic.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I remember, living in Nebraska growing up, fire up the grill. That's steak. That's beef territory. So we'd always have steaks on the grill, baked potatoes, all the sides, drinking a tomato beer, or just, probably just any random beer. My dad was excited when Coors came east of the Mississippi because we had moved to, I think we were in Mississippi when that happened. And I don't remember the exact, but thanks, Bandit. We appreciate the run because, now getting Coors over here, but he was excited about that. But yeah, tomato beers. And I had to kind of make do with what was available. I couldn't find tomato juice because I went last minute, but I got some Bloody Mary mix. So I am going to make me a tomato beer here.
Nice. That's technically a salad, so you'll be eating.
That's
you'll
right.
Be drinking
yes.
healthy.
Go veg, Brian.
Let's go veg. That's right.
So yes, we're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors here, and then we're going to take a break for just a moment. Oh, let me reword that. We're going to make this break invisible on the podcast, so I'm not going to say that part.
Okay.
Y'all, we would like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Truck and Tap. Truck and Tap has been a supporter of the show from the very first day. They have a range of food trucks at their various locations. Really good stuff. Lobsters. You want lobster rolls? Go get you lobster rolls. That doesn't suit your fancy. Wait for another day. They're going to have a barbecue truck there. They have a grilled cheese truck. You just don't know, man. You just don't know. Actually, you can know. You go to their website, you go to their Facebook page. They will show you all the trucks coming up at all of their locations for the week, so you can plan it out, man. You know what? Do the rotation. Hit their Woodstock location one time for your favorite truck. Going over to Alpharetta, hit a different truck. Hit Duluth and get a different truck. Go down to the Battery, hit the Taps at Feast, and hit the Asian food hall there. But they're going to cover everything that you need: cold beer, cocktails, good food. Truck and Tap, thank you so much for supporting us. We greatly appreciate it. Y'all, we're going to catch a break. We're going to refill our beers and empty our bladders. And we'll be
Indeed.
back in just a few minutes. Thanks. We are back. Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Here
Before
we
we go
go.
back in the show, I got two things I want to share here. Brian, this is so cold. It's hurting my hand a little bit.
Ooh,
So you guys think I can chug this?
Oh, absolutely.
I without a horse's help, I don't know if you can. I've got
Oh.
Either.
I've got
All
the
right,
old
let me-
beer dad.
So y'all, if you have been tuning in for a while, I once shared a Mickey's Big Mouth with a horse in the middle of the country. And it was a beautiful moment. It was a very bonding moment, and I have fond memories of Mickey's if it's ice cold. I do remember if Mickey's gets even slightly close to room temperature, that it's pretty rank. So, I know that there's highfalutin beer people that would totally disagree with me at any temperature, but they're not me, and they don't have to drink it if they don't want to. So let me get a sip of this and see how it's treating me.
Well, if it is ice cold, it will numb your taste buds to a degree at which you may not
True.
be harmed, be psychologically damaged by the beer.
You know what? I got to admit, guys, that's not great. No, nostalgia has done me wrong here. So,
And now
don't
you're
ca-
stuck.
yeah.
How many did you
it's-
get?
I got a 6er.
Oh,
I got
Oh,
a
no.
6er, man. So
Oh, no.
a grassy metallic taste there.
oh, man. Really? Ouch.
How's
Yeah.
Beer Dad treating you, Brian, after
No, thank you.
all these years?
It's so this is one of those cases where I've had the can long enough that there's some gloppiness at the end. So
There it is.
yeah, there we go.
There it is.
And so I
Fever tree. Just pointing that out.
Oh yeah, very nice. And so I realized with cans, that especially of this age or bottles, I really need to remember not to pour all the way to the bottom. So,
Mhm.
but having let it settle for a few seconds, it's really nice. It's really, really rich. It's beautiful. So this is named for one of Atlanta's beer dads, but it is not perhaps a classic definition of a dad beer. But you know what? Cheers to JR, and
Cheers,
cheers
JR.
to
Cheers,
Gavin
JR.
and his successful. Where is he at now? Is it Trillium?
It was Trillium.
Think so.
Trillium.
Yeah. Gavin McKenna and his success at Trillium. Yeah, I believe this was one of not his last
Cheers.
beers at the Atlanta Brewing Company, but one of them. I think it was towards the end. I think, and it
That was a
one-
collab with Atlanta Brewing and Max Lagers.
Max Lager. Yeah,
And they did Brian. So that one's dad beer, or is that beer dad?
This is Kentucky Beer Dad. I think.
Okay,
Hold on,
so
let me-
dad beer, if I remember, was a party guile, correct? That was like the second
Yes.
runnings off of Beer Dad. So kind of a cool story on that they ran a small beer off of that, and I believe they put some of that on nitro at the Red Brick Tap Room, didn't they?
They put it on. Not only did they put it on nitro, but they actually put it in a barrel for a while and let it
Yeah.
age on a barrel. And so it was on nitro, it was in a barrel, and it was light, and it was amazing. And here's the thing: it was amazing. They knew it was great, but they said it was a very difficult beer to make. I think it was because they
remember
were
him
already
saying
making the other
that,
beer.
Yeah,
So it was one of those ones where it would be, well, it was going to be unlikely we'd ever see it again. And unfortunately, I don't think we ever did. And
we never did.
perhaps we'll see it one day if Atlanta Brewing Company works out their current situation.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
So I've got here,
Good.
we're going to call it a tomato beer in honor of my dad, but I had to use Bloody Mary mix since I didn't get out in time to find actual tomato juice. But it's Fever Tree, classic Bloody Mary mix. And I like everything I've ever tried from Fever Tree. So I've got high hopes. So I've got Bloody Mary mix and a little bit of old style here.
All right. Waiting to see how that is. I know it's going to be good. I mean, you got Bloody Mary mix and just, it's
great.
going to have to be good.
I remember, and I wish I'd done it. I wish I'd thought of it. They'd rim the glasses like you did for Bloody Mary, so you'd get a salt rim there, and I would enjoy that. So, fortunately, like most people, I do keep some Malden flaky sea salt on my desk,
As one does.
So-
As you do.
so I'm gonna sprinkle a little of that around there and see if I can get a faux rimming.
You never know when an email needs a little extra salt added to
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
You never know when you'll need a rimming, so just keep it handy.
Sim's over there salt baying on his keyboard.
I am salt baying it up. Let's see, guys. But yeah, I like these, man. I like chiladas, and that we had some recommendations, Brian, on social media for a few different chiladas, and one was like a mango chili. I don't know what I think there, man, because I'm not sure I want fruit. I'm not sure I want fruit there in that. I
That's a
would still
whole
suggest you try it because I
Nate.
didn't dislike it. I'm just, yeah. I remember
Oh,
you saying, "Hey, yeah, I got to try that,"
I would.
but I don't think that. I don't think it's what I'm looking for. I didn't dislike it. It's just not what I'm looking for.
I know there's a whole thing with, and I don't know, is it Latin food or something? It's a whole thing with fruit. I see this like dried fruit frequently, but like spiciness, like chili peppers
Oh
or
yeah,
tajin
mangoes
and
with
fruit.
chili or the tahine, and
Yeah.
yes,
And I think it's a whole thing, and I haven't really ever gotten into it. Not I don't dislike it. I just have never really had it for the most part.
tamarind,
Yeah,
tamarind,
tamarind. Yeah.
mango. They'll chili that stuff up, man. They'll
I'm
chili
not
that up.
opposed to it. I think I've even seen
Yeah,
watermelon with hot some sort of paprika or something on it.
yeah, yes.
Theoretically, that's
And
good.
again, to address the question in the chat, yes, I drank Mickey's with a horse.
Yes.
Riding around, and he was there was a place that we called Country Circuit, was just the back roads of the country, and we were out there messing around, and this horse ran up to the fence line, and I had a Mickey's, and I turned it up, and he took a little sip, and I grabbed another bottle, and he drank an entire big mouth of Mickey's. So he's like my spirit animal there. So yeah, that was a good time.
And as we were talking about Anchor Steam, you mentioned that earlier. ATL 6245 says his first beer with his dad was Anchor Steam,
Yeah.
and I'm not surprised by that because that beer has been out since was it 75? It's been a little while since we
I don't
looked
remember
into
the
that.
exact date, but I knew it was
It's a
I
long
knew it
time.
was one of the ones that was considered one of the originals there. So that's it. No, Beer Jesus, I have never done CBS with a bowl of Swedish meatballs,
Oh, I would do
but
that.
made the sour cream with bacon and I'm in. I'm in. So yeah,
Let's do it.
absolutely. Good stuff. Guys, let's do 5 seconds of silence and I'll bring where are we at here? We're on the gifts, Brian? Are we going to gifts or
Whichever. Do you want to go that news item, or do you want to
yeah,
talk about
let's
beer?
go to that.
Yes.
I think we mixed a couple of our headers here. Like not being dads and that. I think we've kind of talked about the ones we like.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessary. So let's kind of roll into your gifts there. It's all right.
Okay.
5 seconds of silence. I'll bring you in. So, Brian, we've done a lot of talking about dad beers for our dads, beers with our dads, beers we stole from our dads, all kinds of things. But, we need to just talk about the dads here for a minute. So, I think you did some research on gifts for dads, and there's all kinds of lists out there for Father's Day coming up for your beer drinking dad for Father's Day. But what should we get our dads when it comes right? And Brian, I'm going to preface this. I'm going to throw, much like my tomato beer, I'm going to throw salt on this before we move forward. I find that every year the Father's Day gift lists are the same lame things. Get him a bottle opener, get him a koozie, get him this, get him that. It's lame. It's lame. He's got 40 of them. The man knows how to open a beer. Get him something better. Brian, what have you got for us?
I looked at a lot of those lists, and that was my thought exactly. Like, is this not the same list that's every single year? You've got the growler that's all steampunky. It's $950, and it has like whistles. It you could put a CO2 cartridge in it. I don't know, cryogenically freeze your beer so the next generation can enjoy it. Just all that stuff. The 90-pound bottle opener, that sort of thing. So I was looking through them, and I looked through a number of lists, and I found a few things that I liked, but mostly I came up with weird off-the-wall things that I think that might be a good gift. And you won't see another list because the problem is most of these you can't use an affiliate link to get to. So I think that the majority of these lists are driven by what you can get what you can make $1 off of with an affiliate link. So they're just clickbait.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the number one thing I can think of is just get your dad the beer he wants. Get him that beer. He likes a beer. It disappears all the time because he's drinking. Get him the beer he wants. Don't get him a gizmo. Don't get him a beer of the month club, because that's going to be, unless he really, really wants to explore, it's going to be a lot of beers that remind him of how much he likes the beer that he likes. And like, well, that was all right. And now I'm in a beer of the month type of thing. Or take him out to get beers. That's another good thing you could do at his favorite place, or just to a place that serves his favorite beer. Either way, that's a great one. I've got some other things that are less obvious. If he likes to grill, there is a barbecue rub out there that includes hops in them, like Cascade hops. So it's Hop Baron's Barbecue. I found that there was a recommendation on Twitter. It looks intriguing to me. I like the idea of it. So if he's barbecuing, that's something he's going to continue to use up as the rub. He probably doesn't have it. He might enjoy that. So you could check that out.
Let's throw some credit, Brian. Who gave you that suggestion?
That was, yes, I should. Yeah, Hops Geek News on Twitter gave me that recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I did write it down. I just forgot to mention it. Another thing I like the idea of, and now he probably has a lot of bottle openers, but he may not have a lot of pocket knives. And particularly, this is one I like because I got it and I really enjoy it. There is the Gerber utility knife with a retractable blade, which is hard to say apparently after having some dad beers. And it's got a pry bar and it's got a bottle opener on it. That's the beer tie-in. I bought myself one to break down boxes. I love this thing. I have a bunch of other pocket knives. This one fills a special niche that I didn't know I had. Just a beater of a knife, and the pry bar opens cigar boxes too, which dads might be into. So
double bonus.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I haven't seen that on any other lists. Something I wish I got at a beer event that I didn't, but I thought about it. They have T-shirts out there with built-in bottle openers, like it's in the shirt itself, and I could see that being so useful if you're out in the backyard. You don't got to carry a bottle opener around. You might have it on your keychain. It's on your shirt. And you can pop it open, or you could use your keys. But you know what? That would be really convenient. So
I got a bottle opener on my key ring too, Brian.
Yeah,
so,
you could do that. You could do that.
But you know what? Multi-purpose it. Yeah.
And the one I used to carry around for the longest time was the credit card bottle opener that slides into your wallet, and you could always pull that out if you didn't have one on your keychain. So there are options there. I really like the one that's just built into a T-shirt. I've regretted not buying that dumb thing ever since I first saw it. So that came to mind immediately when I was thinking about this list. There is an Igloo retro fanny pack cooler where you could carry a beer around on your hip and keep it cold. You put a little ice in there. I mean, that's something your dad probably wouldn't have, and he might actually wear it. You never know. Tim's got his hand raised. What do you think, Tim?
I do. I'm trying to be polite so we don't step on each other here. So a couple years ago, they said fanny packs were coming back, and I saw a couple breweries get them as part of their merch and this and that. I didn't believe it then. It hasn't happened. They're trying, Brian. I'm not falling for it. We're not going back to fanny packs.
See, I don't think this is a trend that has to come back. We're talking about dads here. They don't set trends.
Okay.
They just see convenient things. I'm like, oh, I can have a beer in my hand in a koozie, keeping that cold, but another one on my hip in ice. Oh, I like this a lot. I mean, out there mowing the lawn, you've got the backup beer right there, and it's cold. No need to go to a cooler. Can
you wear that fanny pack with cargo shorts?
Oh, probably. I imagine.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, then I'm in.
Yeah.
Then I'm in.
There you go.
You SOB, I'm in.
I'm in. Something that I saw recently, and it's not really beer related, but it's kind of a riff off of beers. Is Punch came out with a line of cigars they call Dad Bod, and they put the cigars into a beer can, a fake beer can. I think if your dad likes beer, likes cigars, I enjoy Punch. So I've not had these particular ones. That might be an interesting thing. Again, you know what? The cigars, it's not like he may have some, but they're always going away, so you need to replace them. If you have a dad that's a gamer, and increasingly as time goes on, we're going to have dads that are gamers. One of the ones I thought that was very appropriate for the show it's called Dude, Where's My Beer? And the whole point of the game is it's a point and click adventure about finding a Pilsner in the confusing world of unnecessary craft beers and snobby hipsters. That's part of the description of the show.
Okay.
I'm like, he's looking for dad beers. And if you look at the pictures of the game, it's a guy who looks like he's probably a dad. He's got the mustache. He looks like he's no business. He would be happy in a dive bar, and he's trying to find his way to a classic dad beer. So you could guide a virtual dad to his beer if you so chose. There are also simulators about brewing beer. You can get those too in software if your dad is a gamer. That I don't know how many dads are, but some would be. Um, I gotta throw some love to the beer caramelizer. If your dad runs a blowtorch of any kind or has any kind of uh, like construction equipment, or he's got a shop or anything like that, he might be into a beer caramelizer. Basically, a tool for adding heat to beer to change it to make it interesting. It makes noise, it fizzes, it tastes good. So that's a thing
Do
that
you
I don't
think
see
your dad
recommended.
is a Do you think your dad is a toddler, Brian, with the noise and the fizz and the does it
I
have
love
moving
it.
lights and that?
I mean, I like it. I like the, when you stuff it in there and it. Yes,
You do have a weird thing with fire. So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
I
point.
I can't fake. I like sticking it in there and it roaring up and
Yeah,
and all that. Like
the
getting the
head
poker
rushes
red
up.
hot, wedging it down in the beer. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool. So that
a
would
chance
be
to use a little one of those kitchen torches on it.
Mhm.
It's
yeah.
just a reason to do something that seems really really dumb, but it's safe enough at the same time. A little bit of danger, a little bit of excitement.
Just the right amount of danger.
And though the thing that you could, as a Gen Z TikToker, which we may talk about this in the a news item coming up, is you might consider getting your dad a flight board with a QR code that takes you directly to a 10-hour mixed loop of the Home Depot song.
Is that a
So
thing? Is that does that exist or is that your own
I
invention
created that.
suggestion?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
created that. That's a little teaser for what's coming up.
Okay.
I think the worst gift idea I saw, I looked around at a ton of things, though, is there's something called a bottle resealer. And
Yeah.
it really is, it opens the bottle and it has like a foam top on it that slides in on top of the bottle to reseal it. And as a dad gift idea, why? A dad is never going to open a bottle that he doesn't finish. Why would he ever want that? So
Was this maybe wine dad gifts? Maybe they need to resell this?
no, it was on a
No.
beer.
All
It was
right.
on, yeah. Now I
All
think
right.
that they might be thinking about the newer beer dads that may be getting the more expensive bottles, but like the traditional beer dad, the classic beer dad who had the Miller High Life, why would he need it? It would be like any kind of a stopper or something for his Miller High Life. He's going to finish that thing. He doesn't need that.
It'd be
So,
done. Done. Absolutely. That brings up a point, Brian, talking about, the gifts and that. We've got a suggestion here, give me a gift card to my favorite brew pub, things like
yes.
that. We had a chat on Twitter where we were talking about what were the dad beers, what were the beers for dads, and we brought up, the classic beers and that. And we had a few brewers that chimed in and was like, guys, dads are at the breweries drinking IPAs now. The hazy
Mhm.
IPA is a dad beer now. That's crispy boys, nice crispy pilsners, which I guess still ties in. But
Yeah.
what was dad beer to us and to our dads, this generation, 20 years from now, you're gonna have, someone thinking back, it's like, oh yeah, I remember my dad, he was such a fan of that old beer. What was that called? Pliny the Younger. He
Yeah.
loved Pliny and Heady Topper. He loved those. And those
Dang,
are a
yeah.
couple of older ones there, but that, here in Georgia, the dads will be, oh, they drank that old Georgia beer. What was that? Tropicalia. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's
those
starting to get some gray hairs. The old Tropicalia.
right. So the definition of dad beer is changing now, and just what is a dad beer, and it boils down to whatever your dad likes, really. We've got
Mhm.
the term that takes us back to these BMC beers and that, but today's generation of dads are enjoying craft beers at the brewery.
And I did a little informal survey of the results of searching on Untappd for dad beer. What was really enlightening to me and interesting is that I found that of all the ones that came back in the search results for dad beer, 15 of them were some form of IPA, including milkshake and triple IPAs.
Mm.
Okay,
About 13 of them were a mix of pilsners, lagers, that style. So IPAs are actually winning out in Untapped in terms of dad references. So there's a variety like dad bod, dad
crazy.
beer, dad whatever, that sort of thing. It's increasingly moving towards IPAs with that. So I think that the people's concept of what a dad beer is moving away from BMC beers and moving towards
to
the
those,
IPAs
right?
that we thought were hip.
That's it, man. I guess we're dad beer age though. So
Yeah.
I guess it fits. Maybe Nate's coming up on it. He's about
Yeah.
there. We're closer and more into it than he is, but Nate's close enough. But Brian, talking about Untapped and popular beers and all this, you got some news kind of tied into the Flightboard Home Depot thing there, right?
Exactly. So that was a reference to something that I think it was Brian Purcell of Three Taverns shared to us on Twitter. And apparently TikTokers are roasting their craft beer loving dads. It's a thing, it's a trend. There's a lot of them. Apparently there's some sort of a support group with an acronym, and I actually forget what the acronym is, but it's like
Okay.
Daughters of Craft Beer Loving Dads or something like that. Yeah, so it's just a growing number of 50 somethings that have Gen Z kids that have no interest in Untapped, and these 50 somethings still love and are excited about beer. It is probably a growing demographic as the people who, the millennials and the Gen Zers are moving up into the 40s and the 50s. We're just going to see more of this. And Gen Z does not seem to be taking to craft beer the way the millennials did, or the way that the previous generations did. So I think they're actually moving towards non-alcoholic stuff of all things, but definitely lighter stuff, healthier, lighter, possibly non-alcoholic or just low alcohol. So the whole cliche of these roast videos on TikTok is some combination of the following. And there are a bunch of videos, obviously. It's TikTok. It's an older guy. He's usually a little bit salt and pepper at the very least, not too old. He's not 60s, but he's definitely like 50s. He usually has a beer flight or some sort of a sampler size pour. He's taking pictures of it usually. A lot of them feature the Home Depot song for whatever reason.
All right.
While it's happening, I guess that's just a dad song these days. And they usually almost always flash to the kid videoing it, and the kid's bored to death. Like, they're tired of the dad taking the pictures. They're waiting for the dad to finish taking the pictures so they can actually drink the beer. So if you've ever been with somebody who obsessively takes pictures of their food before they eat it, you know what I'm talking about. It's that same sort of frustration. So some of the roasters note that Untapped is the only social media that the dads in this age range are using. So if they want to get in touch with their dad, they have to go on Untapped and a comment on his beer check-ins. So that's a whole thing these days.
That's a whole thing. It's a
thing.
whole
Yeah.
another thing there. Mocking dads on Untapped. That's just so mean. That is just
here's the
so
thing.
mean.
People in general are kind of, I think there's a lot of stigma towards using Untapped in general. So I think that it's not just the Gen Zers that are doing that. I don't know if you've noticed an increase in that. I think there always was a little bit, but I think that there's a growing amount of people that kind of look down on people that are beer tickers, is what they call them.
Yeah,
don't know if
ticking
you've noted
wells, and there's always going to be a group that looks down on another group. You've got your craft beer elite. I don't think elite's the right word. You've got your people who perceive themselves as the craft beer elite, that they don't. I only drink 40-year-old lambics and this stuff and that.
Yeah.
And they look down on anybody below that. You've got, I tell you what, I get grief because I don't mind drinking an old style or a Mickey's, or well, maybe a Mickey's I do now, but or making a tomato beer or something. I don't care. If I like it, I'm going to drink it. I know I enjoy really good dry Fontaine and Oud Goose, a classic beer like that, but I can pour some Bloody Mary mixed into a glass with an old style and enjoy that as well. But there's always going to be a group. The BMC drinkers are always going to get grief, man. Even when they come in trying to explore craft beer. Hey guys, I really like Miller, but I'd love to learn more about craft beer. What can you tell me? 10 out of 12 comments are going to be people telling them how crappy their taste is because they like Miller, even though they're in there trying to get information to expand their palate. That's kind of the way the world works there.
The gatekeeping is rough, and there's been a lot of talk of inclusiveness, being inclusive. I know it's not geared towards these people, but let's be cool with everybody. I'm like, everybody, including people that are still there. They just don't know. They're excited. They're going to take pictures on Untapped because this is a new, entirely undiscovered world for them. So yeah, I mean, I'm still cool with it. I think that kind of enthusiasm and excitement for craft beer is something that craft beer is losing, and we need to cherish it as long as we can, even if some of it's a little misguided, a little
That's
a
it.
little off
Do what
the
you can,
wall.
man.
Yeah,
You know what? Enjoy what you want to enjoy. Don't care what anybody else thinks. Go out there and enjoy it. If someone, and this applies to really anything in life, we're getting to the point here, we're going to give life advice, but
yeah,
if somebody craps on you for something you enjoy and what you enjoy does not impact or hurt anyone else in any way, they're the ones with the problem, not you.
oh,
Even you
correct.
weirdo
Yeah.
freako furries. If you're
Thank
not
you.
hurting anyone else, I'm not one to tell you can't wear your fursona. So that's the way
Exactly.
it is. But Brian, to make sure that this show ends in the most uncomfortable manner possible, I think you put together some dad jokes.
I did. I
Beer,
went out
didn't you?
and compiled some dad jokes, and I
I
was
didn't
like,
read them. So I'm going to see
"This
if I
is going to
can.
be amazing." All
Yes,
right,
let's
all
do
right.
this.
I'm not good with my stand up, or I haven't practiced, so let's see. All right, the first one: a Roman walks into a bar. He holds up 2 fingers and says, "Give me 5 beers."
Okay.
Got it?
Okay. I got it. All right.
This
All
is-
right.
all right, all right.
Classic.
How about a
Next.
skeleton walks into a bar? He orders a beer and a mop.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was
These are horrible. Well
Yeah.
done.
These are the best. These are the best of the
Oh my
very, very
gosh.
worst. So I'm just telling you. A neutron walks into a bar and asks, "How much for a beer?" The bartender replies, "For you, no charge."
All right.
There's a little bit of
smart
science
joke.
in there. You get that?
All
A little
right.
science?
I
Okay.
got it. I got
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
What is the definition of a balanced diet? A beer in each hand. I like this one. This one's good.
I'm never going to forgive you for this, Brian.
This
So.
is great. Well, everybody's probably heard some variant on this, but I'm going to include it just because it's a classic. What's the difference between Bud Light and having sex in a kayak?
I don't think you can say that on this show.
They're both.
I don't think you can say this punchline.
They're both effing close to water. I can
Okay.
if I
Okay.
censor it
All right.
the right way. So
You want to use the actual word, and I'll just put the duck squawk in there, so you don't. So
I can say it.
no,
They're
we're
both
good.
fucking close to
Oh
to
my
water.
God, he said it. So
How does a man show he's planning for the future? He buys 2 cases of beer.
all right.
That's
all right.
assuming he doesn't normally drink 2 cases of beer. So there's problems with that joke. One of my favorites. A cashier asks a man, "Would you like your beer in a bag?" He responds, "No, in the can is fine."
Huh.
Yes. Oh, let that
Y'all,
one
I
sink in.
hope you guys have
Delicious.
enjoyed Brian's time on the show. This will be his last appearance.
I think we're losing listeners at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
everybody's
steady
jumping out.
drop
No,
there.
we still have the same no reviewers.
Oh my gosh.
How do you know when a joke has become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent.
There's the
Yeah, we
emoji
got-
response.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes.
HCL
There's
6245.
So
the-
if you enjoy these jokes, there are better ones, but in the same vein on Twitter for some accounts that I follow, I recommend you follow them for the best dad jokes, relevant ones to the current times. And one of
Relevant.
them is Michael Graham. He's one of the founders of Austin Beer Works. His handle is ABW Graham, GRAHAM. His dad jokes are actually much better than these. None of these I think are his. And the beer writer, Don Tess, the Dawn of Beer on Twitter. That's his handle, the Dawn of Beer, DON. So both those guys, his are a little more cringy. So his would be more in line with what I've said. But they're both very good if you enjoy beer jokes and dad jokes and where the two intersect. So I recommend those.
I don't know, Brian. I did not enjoy any of this. I just want you to know that I did not enjoy any of this at all. It was
come on.
terrible.
It was great.
Yeah, it was terrible. That's the dad joke. You shouldn't enjoy it, right?
No,
Get a
you
little-
really
get a little
shouldn't.
groan out of it, huh?
You should be irritated at like, oh, the great thing, a real dad joke is a dad joke when the only person that actually derives enjoyment is the one telling it.
Is the dad
That's
if he
the
enjoys
mark
it?
of a
That's
dad
the
joke.
classic.
Yes.
That is the classic. Well, good stuff. Well, y'all, Father's Day is coming up next weekend. Just, you know what? Just do something nice for your dad. Whatever rules, take him out to lunch. You know what? Get your dad socks and underwear because you hit an age where like that's a good gift. Like you're cool with that. Get him his favorite kind of shirt. Dads need shirts. You know, I know my dad loves button down short sleeve shirts with pockets on them. That's his entire. It could look like whatever it wants to as long as it fits that mold. It would definitely be good with him.
Or
But
buy
y'all,
him his favorite beer.
buy him his favorite beer, take him out for his favorite beer. Dads like time with their kids too, especially as life gets busier there. But y'all, that does wrap it up for our Dad Beers and Beers for Dad show. Next week, we've got another banger. We are going to have Joran and Sean from Halfway Crooks Beer in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to have Todd DiMatteo from Good Word Brewing in Duluth, Georgia, that are going to join us for the Lager Show, a.k.a. everything you wanted to know about lager, beer, and brewing. So that is going to be a banger. We've been planning that a while, and I'm really excited about. But with that said, y'all, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. For more craft beer info, make sure to follow us online. We're Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And y'all, thanks to Smalls, we are on TikTok. Until the dispute is settled, we're Beer Guys Radio 1 on TikTok. We're working on that. But, follow us there as well. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers. Clear. Clear, guys. Clear. Awesome sauce.
Clear.
Good stuff. Y'all, let's see. We got us another comment here. What do we got?
We had a lot of comments, and I apologize, guys. We couldn't get through to all of them.
Oh, here we go. Dad jokes. Who was that old comedian?
Left home. That's like an old school. What's his
Henny
name?
Youngman.
Rickles. That's like a Rickles.
Don
joke.
Rickles.
Yeah, that's like a Rickles joke.
I think Henny Youngman may have been pre-Don Rickles or in that, but he did those.
Okay.
Like the old line you hear where they say, "Take my wife, please,
take my wife."
Yeah,
Rodney Dangerfield. I don't get respect. Take my wife, please.
Yeah, Don Rickles, Rodney Dangerfield. I think Henny Youngman was of that ilk as well.
Oh my God, those guys would be so canceled today.
Oh yes, gosh. Oh my gosh.
They're lucky they're long gone. Yeah.
And they do all those jokes in blackface. At that time, that was just I'm going to put on blackface.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that
poorly about my wife because that's okay at this particular time period.
Yeah.
So,
woo.
Well, y'all, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We are going to put the link to the video in our Discord chat. If you are a Discord or a Patreon subscriber, we invite you to come and hang and have a beer with us for the after party here in the video chat. Otherwise, y'all, we'll be back next Wednesday, Lager Show. It's going to be a good time. Thank you so much. Nate, take us out of here.